One of the most impactful ways we can use silence is directly after we ask for the order or tell the prospect the price point. We stop talking, we're quiet. It can be awkward, but if you sit there quietly and confidently in your value, it's going to come across as powerful and it's respectful. Think of it as giving the prospect a moment to absorb the information, think, and respond. You're listening to Prospecting on Purpose, where we discuss all things prospecting, sales, business, and mindset. I'm your host, Sara Murray, a sales champion who's here to show you that you can be a shark in business and still lead with intentionality and authenticity. Tune in each week as we dive into methods to connect with clients, communicate with confidence, and close the deal. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Prospecting on Purpose. Today, we're diving into a powerful yet often overlooked tool in the sales arsenal, the art of silence. Intentional silence can be one of the most powerful tactics we can use in our roles of building relationships and influencing others. We're going to talk about different ways we can use silence with our prospects, specifically how it impacts our active listening, successful pitching, presenting, and closing. I recently released an episode about active listening, episode 38, if you haven't listened to it yet. And one of the points I missed is that when we add silence to our conversations, it allows the other person space to engage in the conversation. We create the opportunity for both parties to be active listeners. When we pause when speaking, it gives the other person the space to respond to us and share more details that hopefully help us build the relationship or close the sale. Just like we broke down in our active listening episode, if you're not planning your reactions and responses in advance and embrace the power of silence, you're demonstrating confidence and control. You're showing your prospect that you value their input and you're not just interested in making a sale, but finding the best solution for them. And if you pause and give them space, you're giving them the ability to actively listen to you. Some inception stuff happening right here, right? So now that we're all actively listening, let's talk about how we can use silence in our presentations and our pitches. Let's pretend we're hosting a lunch and learn and we're educating a group of potential clients about our product. Because we know how to prospect on purpose, we're asking about their business model first, as discussed in episode 10 of the show. But when we're going through our presentation, we need to find areas where we can naturally pause. Pause for drama. Pause after an important story. Pause during an important story. Pause after an impactful statistic. Go through your presentation and find areas where you can intentionally pause. Extended silence may cause people to chime in and ask a question or expand on your point on how it applies to their business. So many times when I've presented and I put a gap in my presentation, what happens is that someone in the crowd or someone in the audience ends up starting to sell my product for me. They'll turn to their team and say, hey guys, we could have used this on XYZ project. And I'm listening, taking mental notes to follow up with that person and get more details on that project. Or on the flip side, maybe you're presenting and nobody's listening. You have a group of disengaged people. They're on their phones. They're doodling in their notebook. Pausing will honestly force them to get back to your presentation. They're looking up to see why the talking has stopped. It gives you as the presenter the opportunity to gauge their reactions and emotions and then course correct as needed. I'm hopeful that many of us are not having disengaged presentations, and in 2024, I have some episodes planned about how to deliver engaging presentations. But if you're having a difficult time with this, take some time to reflect on what you could have done differently after the fact. And we need to do this with formal presentations, pitches, or even just one-on-one meetings. And it usually comes down to we're just talking too much and we're not weaving in intentional silence. And I'm guilty of it too. I recently had a meeting and I was pitching something to a potential prospect, and it was a virtual meeting, of course, so the body language was a little bit more difficult to read. But when I paused, I could tell that the person was not fully engaged. Their eyes were elsewhere. We weren't having that natural connection that I can usually establish as one of my strengths. But the pause let me really understand that they were distracted. Maybe it had something to do with me, maybe not. But instead of filling up our whole meeting time slot, I kind of just quickly wrapped up the meeting. I listed out my action items. I told them I would love to support them in their project and that I would follow up that same day. I don't know if I'll win the job or not, but reflecting on his reactions, I think more intentional silence would have served me better. So I'm going to work on it for my next proposal pitch. Last but not least, silence is really important when we're closing. We discussed this a bit in episode 17, how to close the deal and generate repeat business. One of the most impactful ways we can use silence is directly after we ask for the order or tell the prospect the price point. After we do that, we stop talking, we're quiet. It can be awkward, but if you sit there quietly and confidently in your value, it's going to come across as powerful and it's respectful. Think of it as giving the prospect a moment to absorb the information, think, and respond. It creates a sense of anticipation, and it gives you the ability to demonstrate your confidence while also practicing that air of detachment. And then it organically prompts your prospect to speak up, share their thoughts, and hopefully say yes, close the deal, shake hands, and move on. So remember, the key here is to use silence naturally and purposefully. It shouldn't feel forced or awkward. And with practice, you can master the art of incorporating silence in your sales pitches, making your communication more effective and more impactful. It might feel awkward, but remember, silence isn't just about staying quiet. It's about using that quietude strategically. It's about creating space for meaningful conversations to unfold, for objections to surface, and for genuine connections to be made while still staying in the driver's seat in our efforts. I hope you enjoy this episode. I wish you the best of luck weaving silence into your communications. It will be fun to go out and practice, and being mindful of the silence is going to be a game changer for you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Prospecting on Purpose. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Prospecting on Purpose podcast. If you loved what you heard today, subscribe to the podcast and please rate and leave a review. For more info on me, or if you'd like to work together, feel free to go to my website, saramurray.com. On social media, I'm usually hanging out at Sara Murray Sales. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.